Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 131. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for tuning in this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, this time, 1 week from now, I will be pushing the McLuhan to the St. Vincent College. Players will have reported, and will be, by the time you're listening to this, practice will have started. So we're exactly 1 week away from the start of the first day of practice of 2019 Steelers training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Hallelujah. We've almost made it through the deadest part of the off season here, and it's always kind of tough to come up with some good content, this time of year. But I think Matthew and the rest of you guys have done a great job on that. We'll obviously have a couple more things that we've both written about the last few days that we'll talk about on this show as well too. But glory, hallelujah. 3 weeks from today already, the first Steelers preseason game of 2019, and I tell you, going through working with some of those charting, offensive and defensive charts from last season. I've already got the fever pretty bad. I can't wait to get into some of this preseason tape.
Yeah, for real, because I've run out of stuff to talk about with the offseason. I want to jump into it, but kind of going off a conversation we had, I believe last show or 2 shows ago, talking about kind of how camp's going to start on the first day when players report next Thursday. Vince Williams had an Instagram post that basically said, it's going to be all business, seemed to hint at a very low-key entrance and report day to this year's training camp.
Boy, that does not hurt my feelings at all.
I didn't think it would.
I don't guess I'm going to have to Google any expensive cars or anything along those lines this year. Look, I've talked about it a couple times already. Over the course of the last several weeks here, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see this team have a super low key entrance into training camp. Look, the stuff that Vince did last year with addressing like the Stone Cold Steve Austin, as a whole, that stuff doesn't hurt. I mean, it's okay to have fun like that to that degree. I thought the helicopter, and I thought some of these things, these entrances over the years have gotten a little bit over the top. I'm not completely get off my lawn when it comes to all that. But I mean, let's face it, this is a team that missed the playoffs last season. This is a team that's coming off of a season where, all anybody could talk about was, it being a circus, if you will. Let's not have any kind of a circus type atmosphere to start off training camp this year. I'd much rather there be a whole lot of fanfare in February via a parade than I would a rival for a training camp and that kind of thing. I mean, look, it's going to be a busy enough day as it is. Players can say what they want to say, during their initial talks with the media on next Thursday there. But yeah, to hear and really not much to go by, just a couple of sentences on an Instagram post, if you will, but it certainly makes it seem like that the Steelers are going to have a very low-key interest to training camp at St. Vincent College in Latrobe next Thursday, and sign me up for that.
Sure, I don't mind it. Players want to do that, cool with me. I really thought it was going to be pretty low-key anyway, because once you remove AB from that, I mean, that was the dude that made everything kind of crazy. I think most players came in pretty low-key last year, right? There was no one else that went. I know in the past you've had, James Harrison and Brett Kiesel make a splashy entrance, but I think generally speaking, most guys last year, AB aside, came in pretty quietly. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, it seems that way. Like I said, you had Vince last year, you had AB. I'm trying to think if there was anybody
I'm sure
else.
JuJu had a little bit of fun, but I don't think he did anything too crazy.
Yeah.
So I think, you remove AB from it, you naturally already go to a much quieter entrance to camp. I just want to make sure guys still have fun because camp's a grind and it's a special environment, it's a team bonding environment, and I want guys to be able to enjoy it as well as get to work.
Yeah, but you are there to work.
Yep, sure. And speaking of that briefly, because for Thursday they report, and then you have some media availability with Tomlin and maybe some players. They also have the conditioning test, and I just thought this was interesting because I didn't remember exactly the specifics of what the Steelers conditioning test is. It varies team to team, but Josh Harris, the former Steelers running back, tweeted out yesterday what the conditioning test was, at least whenever he was there. I imagine it's mostly the same or exactly the same as it is today, and it's the conditioning test he tweets out is 100 yards in 13 seconds, jog back 50 yards, walk back next 50, 45 seconds rest. You do that 10 times. So that's the conditioning test. He says it wasn't too bad compared to some other teams. Apparently Baltimore has a really tough conditioning test. So if you're curious about what that was and what the pass-fail is for that moment, there you go.
Yeah, we'll find out real quick who passed and who won't. I'm sure the pressure won't be on a couple of those guys. I have a hard time visualizing Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, sure. He doesn't do a conditioning test.
Having to do that. Maybe guys like Marquise Pouncey and Ramon Foster don't have to, or maybe the rules are slightly bit in their favor as well, too.
I think some of those guys are actually held out of it. I'm pretty sure. Players.
Yeah, I am as well, too. Come to think of it, and when I was writing about Vince yesterday, there's just only a handful now of players on this roster that have been to Latrobe for training camp more times than Vince Williams. And obviously Ben Roethlisberger leads that list. Marquise Pouncey, another one, Ramon Foster, Cameron Hayward is another one. Did I say David DeCastro? David DeCastro. So I think there's 5. And I'm trying to remember if there was a 6th one or not. But I mean, there's not many that have been to that. Been to training camp at St. Vincent College in Latrobe more times with Vince. And boy, it just seems like yesterday when he was drafted in the 6th round out of Florida State. But now he's a defensive leader, and that's another reason why I was glad to see him come out on Instagram, yesterday and say, look, it's all business now. No helicopters, nothing like that. So we'll see when it comes, to that aspect. And another end before we get too deep in this thing, real quick, the Baltimore Ravens have already reported for their training camp. And you want to talk about, look, it's way early. You can't read a lot into this, but you'd much rather have your guys healthy than not healthy at this time of year. And obviously, look, no huge surprise that Marquise Brown is unable to practice still at this point, of the offseason, coming off of that foot injury and all like that. But, I know there were a lot of people that were hoping that he'd be ready to go, and he's not. And, it might not sound like a big deal, but every practice that those young players miss during the offseason is probably one practice too many when it comes to that. Now he's obviously on the non-football injury list. Another guy, their first 2 draft picks this year, 3rd round pick Jalen Ferguson is also on the list, and another 5th round defensive tackle Dalen Mack. All 3 of those players started off on the non-football injury report. Marquise Brown obviously dealing with a Liz Frank injury. I think I read that Jalen Ferguson is dealing with a hamstring injury, and I can't remember if I saw what Dalen Mack and another one, Jalen Smith. I think Jalen Smith is another young undrafted wide receiver that's on the NFI, and they also have an undrafted tackle, Patrick McCarry, that started off on the active PUP list as well too. So, man, not a great start. I mean, look, they got an extra week anyway, but not a great start to training camp when it comes to those lists with the Baltimore Ravens.
No, and especially with Brown, because he's missed all spring workouts. He's going to miss, it looks like, a chunk of training camp. And for a rookie receiver to try to get on that moving train after missing so much time, that's the kind of stuff that can set you back for an entire season where, yeah, maybe he's healthy by week 1 and is active, but all the time he's missed is really going to affect him. And they're counting on those receivers. I mean, they really just brought in a bunch of new receivers. They lost John Brown, and Crabtree's gone, so they have Brown and Miles Boykin and some other names into the fold right now. So they're counting on those guys to be ready and make some plays. And we know this is a run-centric Ravens team, but still, you got to throw the ball a little bit. And right now, it's looking pretty questionable.
Are you worried about And look, Marquise Brown, extremely talented player,
Hmm.
at playmaker at Oklahoma. But man, I get skittish when it comes to those guys that soaking wet don't even go in at weigh in at least 180 pounds. The Tavon Austins. Now Tyreek Hill obviously has been kind of an exception to the rule, but man, I worry about the fragility factor when it comes to some of these guys. And already with the Liz Frank with Marquise Brown, I know that's kind of a different kind of injury. But do you have any concerns about players that small?
Sure, I think it's natural. There's been, guys that have succeeded, like Deshaun Jackson, like you said, like Tyreek Hill. There's been guys that have struggled, as you mentioned. Tavon Austin, Steeler fans know what happened with G. Archer really well. So there's always a concern with that. But I think it just spoke to, while this receiver class this past draft was talented, the fact that there was no clear-cut number one guy, that Marquise Brown, 170-pound receiver with a foot injury, becomes the first receiver off the board. That kind of tells you about what this class was. So it just depends on your flavor and the type. But can he succeed? Sure. But are there going to be concerns? Obviously, yes.
Boy, you have a guy, and he's way under 180 pounds. I think he's even under 170 pounds. You have those guys out there and look like fast as fire, but you get taking those hits all those times from those 200-pound guys. Some will say, well, you can't hit what you can't catch. But boy, if they do get a hold of him, they might fold him up and put him in their back pocket.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe some teams go with the approach of it's just harder to hit receivers these days because of the way the rules are, so it's okay to go with a little bit smaller type. But I think what Baltimore's trying to do is have that run-heavy offense and then have that vertical threat over the top, where if teams want to put 8 in the box, that's generally how you're going to defend Baltimore, by trying to, take out that run game. Then that's going to create single coverage for Brown or Boykin or whoever to try to win vertical. I mean, I think that's kind of the idea and the philosophy behind this Ravens offense right now.
Yeah, I have my questions about that team this year. I think they're getting a little bit too much hype. Like I told John Eisenberg, and I think I've told you a few times, I don't see how that defense doesn't take a step backwards for them this year, and that offense, with them being as focused on the run as we think they're going to be again this year. I make Lamar Jackson beat me with his arm, man. If he can do that, you take your hat off and you hand it to him.
Yep. All right, Dave. I don't know how we got down the Baltimore rabbit hole this early for the show. To bring it back to the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, I know we'll hear from him next Thursday and throughout camp, but he actually spoke recently with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. I think he was back in 757 out in Virginia, his hometown, for a yearly event that he does, and talked to Fowler. I don't think there was anything super surprising in the interview. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but Tomlin just talking about the locker room circus and how he thinks things are a lot better right now, and just generally him saying that the mindset does not change. If they're ready to battle, they need to rebound, but he goes in with the same approach that he has in the past.
Yeah, and Jeremy Fowler quoted him saying, I don't know that our locker room wasn't calm a year ago. The circus that associated with being us from time to time, the attention and things that come with it, there's the perception of a lack of calm, but I don't know that there was a lack of calm a year ago, to be quite frank, within our group. The circus that maybe surrounds our group can be described as that. I don't know what he. I guess he's trying to say. The circus would come with what comes with being the Steelers. I guess I don't know, or with with everything with AB being around there. I don't know what exactly meant by that. But that group itself, these guys are professional. They understand our climate, what it means to be professional athlete in 2019, and in a microscope associated with that. They embrace it. They don't run away from it. They understand it, as do I. He goes on to say, so we appropriately answer questions and address issues, but not saying that we agree with the questions or that we acknowledged that there's this helter-skelter that people like to frame that there is. We have no control over the storylines. We just prepare and play to win, and that will never change.
Very much Tomlin word salad, I think. But I think maybe what he was referring to about him believing there was still calmness in the locker room was saying that, the drama was isolated to essentially one person, because Bell wasn't in the locker room. So it was really Antonio Brown doing his thing, and the rest of the locker room was just bystanders. I think is how Tomlin believed it and viewed it.
Well, I
in a
mean,
sense.
look, I mean, you take him and Bell out of the equation this offseason, it certainly has been.
Sure.
We're not writing about people throwing things off balconies and franchise tag dates and will he or won't he show up and those kind of things and Antonio Brown questioning whether or not he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Just all that stuff has gone to the wayside and. Look, I'm here for it. They're obviously going to miss Antonio Brown to some degree this year. We'll see what degree that ultimately is. But, the big narrative right now, at least this last week in the national media, seems to be addition by subtraction. We'll see how quiet things can remain from, the start of training camp on out. But there shouldn't be much of anything circus-type atmosphere, if you will, moving forward.
And I don't believe there will either. And I just want to point out, though, is that this time last year, there really wasn't a whole lot of drama either. I mean, it kicked up with Bell, and what happened with that once week one started. But this time last year, you were past the franchise tag deadline. You were coming off that, but there wasn't a whole lot going on. So, I mean, I don't want to guarantee there won't be any drama. I mean, you don't think that there would because there weren't as many big personalities and egos the way that there were last year. But you get into a season, you never know what's going to happen. I think last year proved that. So I don't want to proclaim it as drama-free quite yet.
Yeah, and look, it wasn't drama, but, it got the Antonio Brown news cycle got fired up real quick there at training camp with a helicopter arrival and all like that, So,
yeah, but that's not drama,
like I said, it's not drama, but I mean it's just unnecessary storylines, if you will.
Sure. All right, fair enough. Anything else from Tomlin? I mean, that was really the gist of it. I think Tomlin said all that you can say. I think the players have said basically all that you can say about this offseason. I think really the focus has to turn to just proving it out in the field.
I'll give it to him when it comes to this too. Look, I mean, he didn't, with the start of training camp being right around the corner, he didn't have to. Mm-hmm. I'm sure grant Fowler, kind of a sit-down interview. Now I know what was it, either a year ago or 2 years ago when he was back in his hometown, he did the drive around feature story and all like that, and that was kind of cool. But I mean, with training camp. And all the, him being in front of the media very often moving forward here starting next week, he doesn't have to, I'm sure, sit down with Fowler when he goes back to his hometown. Now, I know he does the one or two kind of cordial interviews every year with the with those people back in Hampton Roads and all like that, the Bruce Raiders and the various news stations and all like that. But none of those are really kind of hard-hitting interviews, if you will, and he mostly gets to talk about his camp at that time. So, I'll give it to him that, he sat down and seemingly answered a lot of questions from Jeremy Fowler, last weekend, knowing that he's going to probably hear a lot of those same questions again here at the end of next week.
I agreed. That's a really good point. I think Tomlin's always done a good job of this, kind of embracing that stuff. I mean, sure, there's questions he'll bristle at, and some of the questions he won't answer, the hypotheticals and whatnot. But I think overall, especially regarding this, I think he's been, by his standard, about as out front and clear as possible. So that's a good point. And I know Tomlin's going to get asked about it again and again because that's still the prevailing storyline, especially with the national media. But I think eventually, you have to move on here and get back to football, and Tomlin's address it as much as it can be addressed, and you move on.
Will he get a contract extension here in the first couple of weeks of camp?
Yeah, I think he will. I think Colbert too, assuming that Colbert wants to do that and isn't planning an almost immediate retirement. But again, to me, those things don't matter a whole lot. I mean, coaches' contracts mean even less than a player's contract. I get Pittsburgh's different, but again, to me, it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah, I think he'll get extended here pretty quick as well, too. I'm sure that'll anger some section of the fan base there. Tomlin came in ranked 9th overall on Elliott Harrison's coaching power rankings or whatever, if you will. I guess that's fair, right? I mean, you missed the playoffs, and the other 8 that were ranked ahead of them are guys that, there was some recency bias in there. Guys ranked ahead of, maybe a tad too low based on overall history and all. But, I mean, it's understandable, I guess, to drop Tomlin I guess he dropped essentially like 4 spots. I think he was like 5th last year in the coach power rankings and all. But it's not worth rioting over, I don't think.
No, I'm not losing any sleep over it. Did I think it was a touch low? Sure, but do I get why he fell to ninth in that ranking? Yeah, I mean, when you miss the playoffs, when you go through all the turmoil as you went through this offseason, it's gonna damage you some. So I mean, it's understandable. And again, I would probably put him a couple slots higher, but it's something that I saw and then almost immediately forgot about.
Yeah, and the Chargers head coach
Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, Anthony Lynn ranked, I think, 1 spot ahead of him. I guess I get the fascination with Pete Carroll. I don't know if I would consider Pete Carroll the second best coach in the NFL, right? Would you?
Well, I mean, the question is who would be the second best coach? Because I mean, Carroll's got a really long, consistent track record. I mean, who else are you going to put up there that would have a better track record than
Yeah,
Carroll?
I suppose. I mean, I don't know. Peterson's really. I mean, he hadn't been around very long, but Peterson seems to have and McVay obviously. Boy, you want to talk about a guy that out to shoot hot, man. What's his win percentage now after 2 years? Like 750. I mean, it's up there. I think of all the guys. I put it in this post as well too. All the coaches that were ranked ahead of Tomlin in his power rankings. McVay has the highest winning percentage now, albeit he's only coached for 2 years, but
Right.
even a better winning percentage than Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but again, I think 2 years is such a small sample size that Carroll gets the nod for doing this consistently year after year. But again, those things to me don't matter too much. It just, focus on what Tomlin can do and can control, and he gets back to the playoffs, then everything will be forgotten and forgiven, and he'll be in his typical 4th or 5th place spot in the power rankings.
Absolutely.
Dave, let's talk about a point that I feel like you seem pretty passionate about, and I might have a slightly different take on it, but I want to hear from you first. Talking about JuJu, excuse me, you've written a lot about him and some of the comments from the national media that seem to be a little down on JuJu, a little concerned about the type of year he'll have without Antonio Brown. I don't know if that's something you want to talk about a whole lot here, but I've seen you write about it a little bit and tweet some stuff out about how JuJu has played well and the numbers look good even without AB on the field.
Yeah, and that's been the narrative, I guess, ever since AB was traded, right? Can JuJu be the number one? How productive will it be? How big a difference did Antonio Brown make in that offense with the type of coverages that he drew? Is JuJu going to be the next star wide receiver and put up kind of numbers similar to what he did? On average, I guess, over the last 2 years, or really anything similar to last year in total. And I think, when you go back through, and look, I mean, in total, when you go back to the end of 2017, and when you look at and by end of 2017, I'm talking about from essentially the start of the second quarter in the game against the Patriots in 2015, that game, obviously the game the following week against the Houston Texans, and then the finale against the Cleveland Browns. Those games right there, and throwing in addition to that, mainly the what would have been the week 17 game last season against the Bengals. We've seen a lot of JuJu on the field and him having to work without Antonio Brown. And yeah, you could look at the quality of the competition in those games, what was on the line in those games. Obviously, the Patriots game was the toughest one in 2017 that JuJu had to play in regard to being on the field without Antonio Brown. But how they used him and the production that he had, I'd be foolish to say that this team is not going to miss Antonio Brown. But with the way that they use, I think the thing that stuck out to me, and I've now gone back and watched all 225 snaps in total that the Steelers have had JuJu on the field without Antonio Brown over the course of the last a couple seasons. And once again, outside of those games that I mentioned, there's like, 2 snaps there, 1 snap there, and some other games that Antonio Brown wasn't on the field for that JuJu was on the field for. But overall, going back and watching all those snaps and how JuJu was used, it's going to be tough for opposing defensive coordinators to really try to bottle him up and all. Now, look, you're going to have obviously some double coverages in some situations, especially when you're in heavy run personnel and JuJu is essentially lined up on the outside and those kind of things. But they moved JuJu around so much in that offense, working him out of the slot, working him out of bunt situations. I mean, you go back to that game against the Patriots, a couple of years ago. In fact, they tried to use Stephon Gilmore to kind of, to trail and follow him around. And really, that, as a whole, I mean, I think JuJu had 4 catches for, I don't know, what was it, 90 yards, 70 yards or something in that game, even after AB had left. Unless you're going to have your number one corner essentially trail and follow JuJu around all game, JuJu's going to have some opportunities where he's going to see some very tasty tight coverages there. So look, do I think JuJu's going to struggle to put up numbers exactly like he posted last year? Yeah, because of the sheer fact that I don't expect Roethlisberger to have to throw for 5,000 yards again this year. So those numbers, and here's the thing when people are trying to say, well, how do you replace, trying to spread out Antonio Brown's numbers and make all the numbers work across the board and how they could feasibly replace Antonio Brown from a statistical standpoint. Stop trying to match the numbers up to what Ben Roethlisberger's passing stats were last year, first and foremost. Decrease that number by about 600 or so, and then try to start make the numbers work that way. I think you'll find it a little bit less taxing on you. But I still think JuJu is a guy that can be a bona fide number one, can have a 90 catch season, can easily crush the 1,100 receiving mark, can have 8 to 12 receiving touchdowns, if you will. And I think it's mainly because how they use him in that offense.
Sure. I think he has a huge benefit by being so versatile. And as I've said, it's just such a critical year for Randy Fichtner to show that creativity and get those guys in right matchups. And I think he'll have to scheme up getting guys open a little bit more than he had to this past season. But if I had to guess, the people that are wondering and questioning about JuJu still believe that he's going to have a really strong year overall. I assume that they all would take JuJu having at least 85 catches, 1,000 yards, and 7 or 8 touchdowns. I think most people would say that as the bare minimum. But I think it's a fair point to say that there are going to be games where JuJu is just simply taken away by defenses, where they say we are not letting 19 beat us. We're going to let anybody else on that team have to step up and make some big plays.
How are you going to ensure that? Are you going to send your number one traveling with him?
Sure. I mean, there's a variety of things that you could do. You could travel. You can bracket coverage. Again, Patriots out of the gate, they're going to be bracket coveraging. I mean, they will have specific coverages with JuJu's name in it to take him away, whether that's, bumping him, rolling safeties. I mean, the way defenses will do. I mean, it's not that you're going to take away every single play, but you're going to make a very clear effort to do so and limit him as much as possible. And maybe that, you have some sort of pre-snap alignment that makes, Ben have to come off of him from his first read and immediately want to work somewhere else. So, I mean, there's going to be ways that you can do that. And so I think that's the concern with him. It's just that there will be moments where it's like the Patriots game, for example, AB left. That was the game that AB got hurt, right?
Right, and he got hurt early with that calf early in the second quarter of that game, and JuJu still had the 4 catches. Now, albeit one of those was that late one on the underneath crosser with the kind of, I guess, the mesh concept there, and then JuJu turns that into what was that, a 60-yard 60 70 yard gain on a 2-yard pass over the middle there. But I mean, you can't cherry pick that stuff because I mean you got to do what you have to do. They are going to miss AB between, and this is going to lead to us talking about kind of something that we already touched on already, but they are going to miss AB the most between the 20s, and they're going to miss AB the most on backyard bin plays, those kind of things, and then probably on kind of the design. Okay, you're going to single cover AB on the outside and press him. I'm going to point it out. I'm just going to send AB over the top. Those kind of things, because make no mistake about it, JuJu is not going to tie defenders in knots the way that AB was able to tie some of those defenders up. So you're going to lose some down the field big play capabilities. But can you make those up with run after catch situation? I mean, we're talking about a guy that already has 290-something yard touchdown receptions, and how long was the one against the Panthers? In week 10 of last season. I think JuJu still gives you the ability to have the uber long play. I just am not convinced that over a season he's going to produce as many explosive plays maybe as AB would for you.
Sure,
but between the 20s.
The point I was trying to make is that at least in that Patriots game, there's a difference between AB going down mid-game when you've already game planned for AB, and then having a whole season where everyone knows AB's not there and you're game planning specifically, all your preparation up to the week is specifically for a JuJu led offense.
Come on, though. Bill Belichick's one of the best in
he
game.
Is, but I mean, there's a whole difference between your whole game plan and tape study that you've worked on for that week, as opposed to making that adjustment on the fly. I mean, there's a difference, even for Belichick. You have to agree to that.
Okay, yeah, and look, another piece of the argument is, well, Dave, look who JuJu compiled these. In fact, what was his stats in total that I have here? If you're scoring at home, Smith-Schuster has already registered 26 receptions for 358 yards and 3 touchdowns on 34 total targets without Brown being on the field. Okay, boy, that's a quarter of a season right there, right? And if you do the old math and extrapolate it out, you get one hell of a season there. And obviously Landry Jones was a quarterback on like 90 of I put 90 in there. It should be 9. 9 of those completions. See, my proofreading still has some problems there. So I put 90. Landry Jones was a quarterback on 90 of those completions. That should be 9.
You're just part of that Landry Jones fan club, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to make him look good.
Trying to beef up them Landry Jones stats.
Like I said, against Cleveland and Houston, and they were lower tier teams.
Right, Houston in week 16, Cleveland in week 17, when both those teams are out of it, and then Cincinnati last year, week 17. Now, granted, and it depends on what side of the fence you want to be on with this. There were two other targets in that game late last season in week 17 against the Bengals that JuJu should have had. All right, you remember the one that kind of got lofted over I think Denard that hit JuJu right in the chest as he was going out of bounds, and he dropped it. I mean, that was one target late last season that JuJu should have had. The other one was one on that same sideline that JuJu had initially, and when he was coming down, Denard ripped it out of his hands, and originally that was ruled a catch, and then after review it was overturned, and rightfully so, I believe. But that's 2 more that he should have had, and woulda, coulda, shoulda, and all like that. So yeah, I mean, would I feel a little bit better had JuJu done that stuff in the middle of the season against teams like the Patriots or Baltimore or some of these better defensive teams? Yes, but I think that the fact of the matter remains, though, is, and here's another thing, would I be a little bit more concerned if JuJu was more of an X receiver or say a Z receiver and being schemed against? Probably. But the fact that this is a guy that you can move all over really does a lot of his damage out of the slot and out of bunch formations. I'm not so much worried about opposing defenses for 3/4 of a game being able to take him away.
Yeah, again, I think if you ask anybody about what his numbers will be, they'll be really strong. I just think individually, specific moments, specific games, that you're going to have issues. I mean, that Bengals game, what was the stat line in that Bengals game, Week 17 this past year? Do you know do you have the numbers? I can pull them up, but
it was
I
like
didn't know if you had
six. I think he was 6 of 12 on targets, wasn't he?
I don't know. I mean, I'm asking.
It was 5 of 10. Sorry, I knew it was 50%.
How many in yards and touchdowns?
He had 37 yards, long of 12, and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, not good.
But I just told you 2 more catches that he should have had in the game.
Oh yeah, well you yell at me for cherry picking. I think you're cherry picking over there too.
Right.
But my point is that it's not just about the numbers; it's the feel. That feel of that offense was really different, and that was such a critical game. Now I understand partially why that happened because the AB stuff midweek, no one knew what was going on. I mean, it was hard to really wrap your head around and have a great game plan because you didn't know.
The offense in the whole was walking through in a funk in that game, right?
Sure.
And then you look at one of those targets to JuJu. Really, I mean, Ben had no business throwing that ball with that safety there. I think that was the one that was the pick six or. I mean, he only had one interception in that game. What didn't Ben throw a pick six in that game to Sean Williams?
Sean Williams. Yeah, that sounds right. I don't remember if it was to JuJu or not. But my point is just the offense had a different feel. So the numbers, you might say, well, he had a touchdown, he had 5 catches. That might look okay when you put just the numbers out there. But when you watch the game, when you have the feel for the game, you could tell how much not having AB hurt this team. Now, again, will it be a little bit better this year? Of course, because you've added new weapons. You're coming in with the mindset knowing AB's not going to be there, yada, yada. But it's not just a numbers thing as it is just how the offense functions and feels with AB out of the lineup. And I think when he's been out of the lineup, it has been fairly significant to feel that difference.
With AB?
Yeah, and that's an obvious.
But also look. On the flip side, we already said, well, look who JuJu played against. Well, look who the Steelers were having to play against without AB in there anyway. So, the quality of the competition will be interesting. That'll be the biggest thing. And look, we'll know, and we've talked about this a few times already. The first quarter of the schedule, we're going to get a good sense of who the 2019 Steelers are. By the time the first quarter of the season is rolled around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, just to reiterate my point really briefly, then we'll move on, is that JuJu's going to have a great year. He'll have at least 90 catches, well over 1,000 yards. He can make it 10 touchdowns. I mean, that's a reasonable number I think he could attain, but I think he'll have a little bit of volatility in those numbers where he may have a 4-catch for 30-yard kind of game in there, every so often, every 5 weeks, because some team's just shutting him down, whether that's having a great corner that can do it or a great game plan or both, more likely to do that, and that's going to rely or force someone else to step up and make a big play. And those are going to be the big questions for this offense. When JuJu's taken away, are there be enough pieces to step up and make plays? Is it possible? Sure, if guys make the jump we expect them to, but they got to show it.
Going back to, and it's really an insignificant stat, and it's one that's easy to create in the midst of what's happening. But that string of games, I forget how many exactly it was that Antonio Brown had there for a while, where he was registering at least 5 catches for 50 yards. Registering at least 5 catches a game and also registering at least 50 yards reception a game was quite an impressive stat, overall. Now, I'm going to ask you this. How many games do you think JuJu will have in 2019 where A, he either doesn't register at least 5 receptions or he doesn't register at least 50 yards receiving?
I think 2 or 3.
And that's not bad. Well,
no, it's not bad.
I mean, let me phrase it a different way here. How many games do you think JuJu will have that he'll register both at least 5 receptions and at least 50 yards in a game? So you're saying like 13 or 14?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just spitballing numbers.
I mean, that's fairly significant, I think.
And well, sure. Again, I don't think it's going to be again. I think JuJu's having that big 90 catch, 1,000-yard season. So of course you're going to assume that 5 or 50 something he's going to do most of the time, as most top flight receivers do. But it's not even just the overall number. It's specific moments. It's 3rd and 10 when JuJu's getting bracketed. It's red zone, 3rd and goal when JuJu's getting all the attention. In those moments where JuJu might not be available, where someone else has to step up. So it's not just the overall game. It's in those big play, crunch time type moments where everyone knows JuJu wants the football, and every defense is making sure in those specific moments that JuJu's taken away with a specific play call where someone else has to step up. So you can even break this down more than what we are, where it's not just the season, it's not just the game, it's a play, it's a drive, it's a specific moment and situation where JuJu might not be available because of the way the defense is playing.
And as I stated right from the top, it'd be foolish for me to say they're not going to miss Antonio Brown. Okay, because of the 4th and 10 or 12, whatever that was at the end, those type moments, like you said, the sideline catch against the Saints last year on 4th down, the catches against the Green, the superlative moments. But JuJu has had some of those as well. They've been a little bit kind of different in nature, not so much the acrobatic catches, although, that catch against the damn Raiders in the back of the end zone last year, he's had his moments. They've been slightly different. Like I said, we're not going to be showing highlights all season of JuJu crossing guys up, breaking ankles, right? But, JuJu still has had his big moments already. And, how much did Antonio Brown benefit from JuJu?
Honestly, probably not a lot because they still played AB. Like JuJu wasn't there. He was just you or I out there. I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but JuJu benefited more from AB than AB benefited from JuJu. I'll put it that way.
Look, I'm not expecting JuJu to lead the league in receiving, okay? But I think he can be top 5, top 8, and that'll be just fine.
Yeah, no, again, the point is not to argue that JuJu's a bad player or is going to have a terrible season. It's just in those moments, in those 3 or 4 games, and in those specific plays where someone else has to step up. You agree about that. Someone, guys have to step up and rally around to try to replace AB. It's not just one guy, but it's a whole unit.
Look, and I have no issue with that, and I think from part of what David Carr said on the NFL Network the other day is right. Yeah, you're going to have other. I think there's too much emphasis being put on, JuJu being affected than there is the importance, as it should be with any team, of other players needing to make play. Look, can you name who the 2nd and 3rd receiver were on the Saints last season?
Yeah, the Saints was weird because they really didn't have one. It was really Alvin Kamara was their receiver that they went to because they had
Austin Carr.
Yeah, Trey. What's his name? Lewis. What was his name? Lewis. Yeah, I barely even know. The kid from Temple. They had a random dude pop out of nowhere making big plays.
And Ted Ginn Jr. missed a lot of time.
Right.
I think some last year. And then Austin Carr
Quinn,
Traquan Smith. Is that
who I'm thinking of? Yeah. And then it's like Trey Quinn. I think there's a couple.
Yeah. And look, you can't tell me they weren't. And let me ask you this. And look, Thomas is a hell of a receiver. Okay. Mm-hmm. But is he anywhere? Where is he on the AB scale?
He's not quite AB, but he's top 5 at least.
How many times have you during Thomas's career have you gone, wow?
I don't watch the Saints every week, but he's you consider Michael Thomas a top 5 receiver? I think I do.
Right there, maybe at number 4 or 5,
okay,
or 6, right around in there. But look, Hopkins and AB and Julio and
Odell.
Odell.
Mike Evans. No, I get that, but also I think the Saints have the unique element of having a guy like Alvin Kamara, which the Steelers don't quite have post Le'Veon Bell.
All right, can they use in lieu of that? Can they use guys like Connor and Jalen Samuels a little bit more in the passing game to help offset that? Somebody's going to be open Okay, so
Sure.
you're telling me that you're going to expend all this energy, take away JuJu. Okay, you are going to. We've talked about this a ton. The James Washingtons of the world are going to have those one-on-one outside press matchups against number 2 corners.
Hmm.
The Dante Moncriefs are going to early on in the season out of the X spot. They're going to have their opportunities of some one-on-one non-cloud, non-bracket coverages, if you will. Deontay Johnson, like it or not, he's going to be on the field, you would think, right from the get-go here. Certain packages where he's going to be expected to make plays. You're going to have James Conner, who caught a lot of balls last year. You're going to have Ben Roethlisberger a lot more with that dink and dunk that he had last year. Vance McDonald's a guy down the middle of the field. You would hope be able to get the ball down the field a little bit, more consistently past 8 yards. Eli Rogers is a guy we talked about that they used heavily once he got healthy last year. So there are going to be opportunities. I mean, look at what JuJu's had to deal with when he's been on the field so far. Darius Hayward-Bay and Eli and Martavis Bryant have been the guys that predominantly been on the field during most of those snaps.
Right. No, again, like I said, as I just said, there will be opportunities for other guys to step up, and I think that they can, and some of them will. But it's just in those moments, will they make the play? Yeah, of course they'll have opportunities. James Washington's not going to be doubled at all. I mean, Vance is going to have his plays to make big catches down the seam. It just, can those guys make the plays? And that's going to be the question mark. And again, as I said before, that's why James Washington is so critical, because if he can play on the outside and be the Z receiver, it's going to let JuJu play in the slot more where he and Ben work the best, and it's going to help kind of get JuJu a little bit freer than if he's got to play the Z, because Washington struggles, and it's going to be easier for teams to press and bracket JuJu at the Z than it is in the slot. So that's another reason why I consider Washington such a key part to this offense this season.
All right, I'm kind of moving forward. We had this talk the other day about the red zone and all like that, and trying to go through and remember to snap the throw times. Stuff like that irritates me until I get until I get my answer. So I went back and charted all that stuff and all. And look, you've asked me, well, do I think the Steelers' offense will be red zone? I think you've kind of phrased it like top 10 and all like that. And really, my primary answer to that has been, I don't think they're going to be as good in the red zone as they were last year. Did I say I don't think they'd be top 10? I don't remember. You tell me. But looking at some of this stuff again, I think they still can be top 10. But here's the thing that I think that stuck out the most to me. I don't think they're going to miss AB in the red zone as much as maybe people think. I think that's my main takeaway. We talked about scheme the other day. How much has scheme? Now, obviously, I haven't gone back through and watched every red zone pass attempt. Okay, but on the actual scores, on the touchdown passes, on the 20 red zone touchdown passes that Roethlisberger threw last year, I really didn't see where scheme played all that much into it. And we were trying to think, what was the average snap to throw time there? Believe it or not, Roethlisberger made a lot of quick reads on these, and let's see, on his average snap to throw time was just 2.1 seconds on those 20 red zone touchdown passes. Would you have guessed that?
Well, I knew he got the ball out quicker than I think any quarterback last year, so it wouldn't shock me. I don't know if I would have guessed that low, but I knew it was probably a pretty quick number.
On 10 of those 20 red zone touchdown passes last year, Roethlisberger had the football out of hand before 2 seconds after the snap had expired. Wow. Now, granted, there were there were, 5 combined either running back or wide receiver screens. I mean, we talked about that quick screen to AB against Cleveland. We talked about the one against the Ravens. We talked about the one to close out the season to JuJu, that wide receiver screen. The couple of dump offs or dig quick dig routes to the running back. Well, Jalen Samuels had one that was kind of an up and a quick dig across the middle that Ben hit him. I think two more. Dump off to Connor, dump off to Samuels. You had one quick kind of up and out, or actually you had like two or three, I think, up and outs, quick ones to JuJu, Switzer, and Antonio Brown. Remember kind of that seven yard up and out of the slot by Antonio against the Falcons last year. In the right side of the end zone there. So, yeah, Roethlisberger made a lot of quick plays. Now, a lot of them, believe it or not, I think went outside the number or went outside the or outside the numbers, if you will, or right there close to the numbers. But I didn't, after going back and watching those 20 red zone touchdown passes, I came away thinking this team's going to be okay. I came away thinking a little bit better, feeling a little bit better about how the red zone production will be in 2019 compared to 2018. Once again, I think they're going to have trouble producing at the rate that they did last year, and how could they not? I mean, that was such a great rate, right? I mean,
it was the best since the 2003 Chiefs. Historically good number,
right? And look, if they come close to that, people should be ecstatic. I'm afraid somehow in there we're going to be talking about, this red zone offense isn't as good as last year's. Well, hell no, it's not. You shouldn't expect it to be that good. But I think I'm going to backpedal a little bit on my fears that it won't be top 10.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to try to give you some more homework here, Dave, because I read on my brain a lot. Why did this red zone offense jump so much from Haley to Fichtner? Because it's always underachieved with Haley. It finished in the top 10 maybe once or twice in red zone offense. Even Arians, it's been like this since Tomlin got here. And then Fichtner turns into the best red zone offense in 15 years. And I wonder if the snap-to-throw times are different. I wonder if you went through just last year, 2017 with Haley, what Ben's snap-to-throw times in the red zone were. And I wonder if you'll get a much lower number, because I wonder if Ben getting the ball out quicker in the red zone this year, because that was schemed up better, helped create a more efficient and effective red zone offense.
Well, here's the thing, though. If I'm going to do that, I have to look at every red zone snap, right?
Every red zone pass attempt, yeah.
Right.
Or drop back.
Every red zone pass. That would take me. And once again, what I did for this quick study was just for the 20 scoring passes.
Well, you could do it just the scoring passes for Ben, maybe the last 2 years. I don't know, just to give a baseline figure. I'm not saying you have to do, it has to be the most thorough study ever, but I'd be curious. I bet you Ben had a higher snap to throw number under Haley than Fichtner did last year.
On scoring tosses?
Yeah, sure. Any number, any way you slice it and compare it, but if you just make it easy, on scoring tosses.
Well, it's hard to be under 2.17 anyway, right?
It's kind of, I'm getting a little
unless you have 5 and, all of them are quick, or you had one quick wide. Look, he got the ball out quick, and maybe that was the key.
I think so.
Because make no mistake about it, we've talked about it several times, especially last year. Ben's snap to throw time on whole was second quickest in the league, and if you want to be blunt about it, it was dink and dunk Ben last year. There's no two ways around it. But I think what Ben gives you that you don't get with a lot of other quarterbacks around the league is his ability to still extend the play.
Mm-hmm. And he can go deep on any particular play, too. That threat always exists, and that helps soften up the underneath, because everyone knows, there's vertical concepts in every route in this offense. And
right. So you want to use levels and all like that. Absolutely. Sure. And there were those kind of plays last year as well, too. And I think, too, do we see less backyard Ben than normal? I don't want to go that far, because every situation, every snap you have the chance of there being a backyard Ben. It's just I think most of the times the way they and look, we knew what the Todd Haley staples were, right? The Hank. Did we see less Hank stuff last year?
Maybe a little. Especially on 1st and 10, Haley loved the curl flat combination on 1st and 10.
I don't know. I'll go back if I have time this weekend and maybe try to get you the last 2 years of snap.
If not,
times
because I imagine the numbers better, and I bet you that's one big reason why the red zone got more efficient, because there wasn't a dramatic change in talent or anything crazy schematically, but maybe just a little more emphasis on scheming guys up quicker, and then Ben getting the ball out of his hand quicker as well.
How about when, and it wasn't passing obviously, but I mean it was running. What about running more power down there? And look, I hate to see the power run at the 2-yard line, at the 1-yard line, and pulling those guards, because you got so much. There's only so much space to work with, right?
Sure.
On the defensive side of football there. But, I mean, they were a great and nothing gets me more excited than watching a team run power after power. Remember a couple years ago against the Bengals where Haley was having a field day. It's like
close out the game that way.
I mean, just look,
power.
If you can't show me that you're going to, and I'm a big fan of, show me you can stop it before I'm going to keep shoving the sandwich down your throat until you can't. Can't.
Is that one of those Southern sayings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to run it at you until you show me you can stop it. And Haley did that a few years ago, and really it's the only game I think that I can remember that him doing that kind of stuff. And I know you're going to wear your guards out, but I think those guards kind of love it too. Because the Bengals didn't want any more of that, and I know sometimes it's better to run that against a 4-3 team than it is a 3-4 team, yada yada. But the Steelers were a great power running team down inside the 20 last year, and how much did that play a role in it?
Yeah, you have to look at the numbers, but the biggest issue with power is just the gaps you create with that pull and guard. But when you have an athletic line overall, like the Steelers do, especially early in that year when Gilbert was still in the lineup at right tackle, when you can create that reach block with that down block without allowing penetration. So when you have Pouncey and Gilbert and good athletic, big, long linemen in general, it helps you out on power. But I don't think you wouldn't have to ever worry about a guard not liking power and decleating some dude and just stomping on his face. That's kind of what they live for.
Yeah, especially when the opposition is not able to stop it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, yeah. So good discussion there on the red zone. I think this can be the best red zone offense in football last year. The number will probably come down just because of natural aggression, but at the least, I think they can be top 5, because if you cut down on some of those turnovers that Ben had, you'll negate the loss of AB in the red zone. And as you pointed out, that specific area might not be as big of a loss as people think.
Yeah, we'll see.
Dave, with training camp coming up, you wrote an article yesterday just kind of giving a brief overview of the expectations and where we're at for the rookie class heading into camp. Any highlights you want to hit on there?
No, it's just fun to go back again, and see how close these compare to kind of what original thoughts were after the draft. I don't think a lot of my overall thoughts on these guys have changed. Here's the thing with Bush, and the only question is now how quickly he comes out of the chute and how quickly he's allowed to make the defensive play call. And something that we talked a little bit about, I think, on the Tuesday's show there. How quickly can you get him integrated in as a full-time defensive player?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only real question I think with him, because if he stays healthy and if he continues to progress like he supposedly has progressed throughout the football and short season, he's going to be hard to keep him off the field, man. I mean, even right out of the chute against New England, 90% of the plays, it's going to be tough. I mean, I understand you probably don't want to put much more on the plate, than you have to, but I damn sure would like to see that speed out there sooner rather than later. And I think the only real question when it comes to him is like I said, how quickly you can integrate him in as a full-time player, and B, is he going to be integrated quickly enough to make a serious run at the Defensive Rookie of the Year award? And look, this is a guy that even so, we talked about where was the playmaking in college? Where was the tackles for losses? Where were the interceptions? He's probably still not going to give you a lot of that at the NFL level, but as we determined, through complete tape study and our dialogues pre-draft and all, what he does from sideline to sideline and not allowing, turning potential 6-yard runs into 2-yard runs, those are key difference makers right there. So can he top 100 and, is this a guy that can have 110 tackles, 8 sacks, an interception, some tackles for losses mixed in, and can he make a serious run at Defensive Rookie of the Year award? I really think he can. And if you would ask me mid-draft process, if I thought that was possible when it came to the Steelers, I would have said no. But where I am right now with what we know about him right now, if he's on that field in week 1 and playing 80, 90% of the snaps and is productive and as good a player as he's, you would think he would be being drafted 10th overall, I think he actually can make a decent run at Defensive Rookie of the Year award. So really that's the only questions I think that revolve around Bush. Deontay Johnson, I have learned so much about scouting wide receivers by scouting him and James Washington the last two off seasons. I really, really have. I might have been too bullish on James Washington, and maybe it's just part of the process of just being inundated and watching, every snap and all like that. But, really, really had an enjoyable time of going back through the Deontay Johnson tape as more and more became available to me. And especially going back and looking at that 2017 tape with him. This is a kid that I think was a complete receiver almost by the end of the 2017 season. Okay?
Yeah, advanced.
And then here we are, 2018 to me was just kind of bonus with him. And obviously big, if he stays healthy, can get on the field and grasp. The biggest thing with him is more along the lines with Bush, I think. How quickly can he digest and play at full speed at the NFL level instead of having to think?
Mm-hmm.
Because the talent's there, right?
Yeah, again, I think he's further along in his career where he's at now than a lot of college receivers because he's versatile, he can separate, and he's moved around that offense.
I mean, Louis Riddick for a while there, I thought, well, maybe a little hyperbole in there when talking about Johnson. But when you go back and watch his 17 tape and his 18 tape and kind of look at what he does and his ability to get off the line and things like that, really, I think the only question is how quickly can he grasp this offense and understand coverages, just the little things, the things that it took Antonio Brown 3 or 4 years to get, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Antonio Brown, but I mean, this is a guy that I think can catch 80 catches in a season, 70 catches in a season, moving forward here. So that, the only question is with him, I think, is how quick can he learn it? Because I think he has the ability to be in a top flight X receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's got a high ceiling. And at the very least, for the short term, I think, like you said, he could potentially rotate in if they use some 4 receiver sets early in the year. And then in the return game, I think he'll at least get a look there, and if things go the right way, if he performs well, if Switzer gets cut or whatever happens, I think there's potential for an impact in the return game as well. I
still think his college tape, top to bottom, was better than JuJu's.
All right, fair enough.
And obviously better than, if we were to rank them as we did the other day. To me, it would go Deontay, JuJu, and then James Washington there. So, yeah, I have high expectations for this kid. And I think back, trying to going back and thinking about Marcus Wheaton and kind of being impressed with his tape. I think Riddick was right saying this might be the best route runner, best top to bottom wide receiver in this year's draft class. We'll see. Justin Lane. I don't know where you are on Justin Lane. And look, this is a guy that I was kind of bullish about, and I thought the Steelers would have interest in him ahead of the draft. But even so, and I think Kevin Colbert essentially said it, we're not going to rush this kid along here. So, barring an injury type situation with Justin Lane, I find it hard for him to hit that 200 snap mark, and I really think it's going to be hard to even get him 125 snaps, barring injury during his rookie season. So, I think expectations right now, outside of some snaps here and there and some special teams work, it's hard to be bullish on Justin Lane during his rookie year. Where do you come in on that?
On Lane, how much he's going to play?
Yeah, overall,
yeah. I agree. I think it's going to be tough to get him snaps. I don't see a path for that unless there's an injury, and even then, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go. I think that they want to take it slow with him with the conversion. I think it'll be a focus on special teams, playing as a gunner, running down kicks. I think it's going to be a relatively quiet year for Justin Lane, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Benny Snell Jr., a guy that you probably know more about than any of us here. But, even so, I think as the season, not right out of the chute, right out of the chute, you would think and hope that he at least, A, makes the 53, which he should, B, should be able to dress. If you're going to dress 3 running backs in a game. Now, obviously, if you're not going to dress 3 running backs in a game, then it becomes, at some point he's going to start dressing every week. Will it be right out of the chute? We'll see. But if he does, you're going to have to play some special teams. Can you carve out, once you get past the quarter mark of the season, can you start getting him on the field in short yardage situations for a couple snaps, and maybe 6 or 7 snaps on top of that, maybe as being kind of a series speller for James Conner, because he's more like James Conner than he is Jalen Samuels, quite obviously. So, being able to show that you can pass protect and understand those kind of things will play a big role in that. Can he reach the 150 snap mark during his rookie season? I think you're going to be hard-pressed to get him there, too.
Well, I think if you assume that everyone stays healthy, you would definitely be hard-pressed. But someone's going down. I can't see Samuels and Connor going through the entire season playing 16 games, right? Would you agree with that?
Well, the odds. You carry the football that much, especially with Connor, he's yet to prove that he can handle a full workload, right? For a full
just
season.
nature of the position. So I think Snell's going to eventually become the number 2 in some regard, and he'll have a more significant snap count, obviously. So, you might end up getting close by the end of the year just because he's playing games where someone is missing.
Well, that's why I always try to clarify barring injuries.
Sure, but I think with a running back, it's a lot more. You can assume an injury is going to happen more than you can a cornerback, for example.
And hopefully that don't happen. Because he's going to need as much. He needs, like most running backs, they need to get antiquated kind of a little bit to that NFL game, pass protections and stuff like that. So hopefully, the Steelers running backs can stay healthy for at least the first 5 or 6 games of the season, a little bit to help him kind of give Benny Snell some time to learn a little bit more about what's going on.
Sure, and I think for him, special teams, like you said, and then just dealing with not being the guy. It's, he'll have third running back in practice. He'll get, only so many reps. It's going to be a different feeling, and every rookie has to adjust to that, I know. But for a running back and for his story, really becoming the guy out of the gate at Kentucky his freshman year, going over for, I think, 1,000 yards, to now being the number 3 in the afterthought, it's going to be a mental adjustment for him to handle, and it'll be interesting to see how he talks about that and how he handles that.
All right, once we get past those top 4 picks there, then it really becomes which of these guys are going to make the roster, and even if they do make the roster, how much playing time are they really going to get? And you look at Zach Gentry, top to bottom, you would think, all right, this guy's got a pretty good chance to make this roster, this 53-man roster. But let's not forget this is a converted quarterback. This is a guy that even though you kind of like that size, that being almost 6'8", sometimes really works against him not being experienced at the position, especially when it comes to the run blocking aspect. There in his favor, he does have a little special teams experience at Michigan, so that helps out a little bit. But I think we both kind of agree from top to bottom, this guy's ceiling is Jesse James that just left. All right, because how many people would have believed that Jesse James would have got the free agent contract that he got this past offseason when Jesse James was a rookie out of Penn State? Probably not many, right?
Yep, for sure, myself included.
Myself included too. Look, I thought this is a guy that could stick, be a number 2 and all, but he became a little bit better number 2 than I really thought he could. That to me is what we're looking at Zach Gentry. How comfortable is this team with Grimble and McDonald right out of the chute? Are they going to be looking for an upgrade as a number 3 and maybe even carry 4 tight ends? Because is Gentry a guy that you're 100% confident you could get to the practice squad kind of guy? So, look, here's the thing. Nobody should be hoping that we see a lot of Zach Gentry in 2019.
Yeah, his role, ideally number 3, some blocking, short yardage situation, maybe catch 1 red zone touchdown, but less is more with Zach Gentry.
The next guy on the list is the guy that evidently I just absolutely can't stand, right? The guy that, this guy really shouldn't even be in the NFL, Sutton Smith, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my, Dave, you're making yourself an easy target.
Yeah, look, make no mistake about this. I thoroughly enjoyed breaking down all 30 of his snaps at Northern Illinois. A guy that's got a nice two-hand swipe, a guy that can beat tackles around the edge with his speed. What else can he do?
Play with his hair on fire in special teams. It's going to be his biggest path. I think he can have a really good, carve out a good niche there on special teams, but that's going to be the key for him. I think he'll have his moments, though, in camp. I think he'll have, play where he whoops a tackle, whoops Zach Banner or something, and then, makes a great play on special teams in the preseason, and there'll be games where one-on-one, those run blocking drills where he might look like a rag doll. I think it'll be up and down with Sutton Smith.
He's a guy that could very well, and I try to be funny there at the top because I got accused, a couple times already this offseason of being a Sutton Smith hater. Look, me and edge rushers. I like anybody that can get after the quarterback, Alex. I don't care if he's your size.
Hey.
Give me a guy that can put the quarterback, that can pressure the quarterback and put a guy on the ground. That number 2 tight ends, brother.
Your draft board would be just quarterbacks and edge rushers. That'd be all that they had.
Give me George Kittle and guys that can rush the quarterback. That's all I need. And maybe this paddle ball game. And that's all I need. And this ashtray, but that's over your head. You need to go watch The Jerk for some entertainment during this final weekend here. But that's all I need. Give me some good blocking tight ends that can get down the field and catch the football, and give me some guys that get after the pass rusher. And where am I going with this? Sutton Smith.
You tell me.
Sutton Smith might just lead the entire NFL during the preseason in sacks.
In sacks or snaps? Or
in
both?
Sacks and snaps.
All right. It wouldn't shock me. This dude's produced every level he's been at. I can see it.
Can you imagine what we're going to be dealing with Steelers Nation if this guy leads the NFL during the preseason in sacks?
Yeah, it's going to be madness. I think he'll have a good preseason, though. I really do. I think he's got the mentality that might not always translate to the NFL on Sundays, but I think in a preseason environment, I think he'll play really well.
He should be able to. You look at his tape with that two-hand swipe and that speed around the edge of his. He should beat some of these furniture movers.
Yeah, I agree. He should.
All right, so, and you hit on it. Look, can this guy be an asset to Danny Smith on special teams? That's what it boils down to, because there is no way, or there should be no way, that Sutton Smith sees the field defensively for the Steelers. And look, I want to see him. I actually do want to see him play a little bit of fullback during the preseason. I'm excited for that.
You will. You'll see it.
I think we'll see that. I think we're going to see him play a lot of outside linebacker. I think we're going to see him play 17 special team snaps a game during the preseason as well there too. So yeah, but make no mistake about it. If he cannot be a four-phase guy on special teams, he's going to have a tough chance of making the roster.
Did you see Danny Smith's quote as told by long snapper Cameron Canaday yesterday? I think it was in the Trib.
No.
It was just Canaday talking about how you have to earn your job and everything, and Danny Smith apparently always says, the dream is free, the work is sold separately. I thought that was good. Good. Isn't Danny Smith just the best? Can we all just agree on that right now that Danny Smith is the greatest coach in NFL history?
No, we can't.
All right.
No,
I
we
agree.
can't.
Party of one.
All right, Isaiah Buggs. Look, I mean, the way this roster shapes up right now, you got to give him a good shot at being that sixth defensive lineman. However, that position, he's going to have to, like you like to say, he's not going to just be given that position there. There's some decent competition for him, and some guys that got a little bit more experience, and if the guys ahead of him stay healthy, and I think at this point, I mean, we would be shocked if Tyson. Do you say Alu or Alu?
I say Alu. I might be wrong. I think with a Denier, I think it's supposed to be a Dene. Somebody told me that. So I've been trying to fix it. It's a work in progress.
I mean, this guy been around the. I've been calling him Alu. I mean,
yeah.
For forever. But I mean, however you want to say his last name, we fully expect him to make this roster, right?
Oh yeah, they're not cutting.
Daniel McCullers is probably a little bit more of a question when it comes to him, right?
As it always is, but this coaching staff likes him, so I expect him to be here week 1.
So you throw in the other 3 on top of it, 6 minus 5, carry the 1.
Divide and get the abacus out, Dave.
That leaves 1, right? So
yep.
Isaiah Buggs, he can. If there's one thing that he can do that a guy that was your number 6 last year couldn't do, it was get after the passer.
Yeah, LT Walton was bad at getting after the quarterback. Buggs can.
Buggs can play that half man.
Mm-hmm.
Better than LT Walton can. So obviously, Carl Dunbar knows a lot about him. Even if Buggs makes the 53, and I would give him, I don't know, what would you say, 65% chance for Buggs to make the 53? Is that right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Even if he does, you would hope that you're getting in situations where he doesn't have to dress on Sundays. So, I think overall pre-training camp, the only question is can Buggs make the roster as the 6th to just be a game day inactive? That's where you kind of stand with him. Rounding these out, Ulysses Gilbert. Apology to all you Akron fans out there. And look, I understand why it did not hurt my feelings to get a little bit more speed at the inside linebacker with a guy like Gilbert. But make no mistake about it, this guy is got an extremely tough road when it comes to the 53. And for him to make the 53, some negative things I think have to happen with the rest of your linebackers, and I'm not rooting for that. And I've never been a huge Dirty Red fan when it comes to playing inside linebacker in the NFL, but boy, I like me some Dirty Red on special teams. And that he's going to have to beat out Dirty Red, I think, to make this 53-man roster, barring injuries. And even if injuries hit, I think you might look to the outside and bring somebody else in that can maybe serve as a 2019 playtime guy, because I think Gilbert's just not gonna be there for him this year when it comes to playing the defensive side of football. So either he beats out Dirty Red, and like Sutton Smith is just a guy that you cannot cut on special teams, or he's going to go to the practice squad. And I don't start with he's not going to clear waivers.
Yeah, I don't think his path is quite declined as maybe you framed it. I think that he can beat out Sutton Smith. I just like Smith's odds a little bit better because I think he might be the better special teams player, and the versatility as the fullback, outside linebacker might help him a little bit when you come down to a close call like that. But can he make it? Sure. But as you said, it's going to be all about special teams with Gilbert III. And
Derwin Gray rounding things out, the Steelers' 7th-round draft pick, bless his heart. All I want to know is he a tackle or is he a guard? And regardless, even though you can make the math work and have him on the 53. Look, and not dress him. I suppose that's a possibility, but he make no mistake about it. A few things are going to have to happen for him to make it, and those things normally aren't good.
Yeah, it's definitely the toughest path. I think he'll play everything. He's playing everything in spring ball. I think he's a better tackle than he is a guard. This team kind of use him as a potential guard. I think he should stay at tackle if at all possible. But we'll see if he can run with second team and get some reps there. That'll be helpful for him. If he's on the third team offensive line, reps are going to be pretty limited, and it's going to be a tough path.
Do we really know what he can do at guard, though?
No, I mean, he's never done it before, so it's going to be new to him, new to the team, new to everybody. But I just based off, because I don't think he works well in space when he's been off in space and a little bit of pulling, and being a guard, you're going to pull a ton. I don't think it's going to be working in his skill set to work at guard.
All right, so tough path for him. So I think realistically you could see Gilbert and Gray not make the 53, and I think there's Gentry. I think there's going to be a huge question mark over him with the rest of the roster right now. But the other guys, including Sutton Smith and Buggs, I expect those guys to make the 53.
I do. If you had asked me today, I think Gentry, Buggs, Sutton Smith would have the best odds, but any of those guys from after Benny Snell could miss the 53. I mean, we've seen that before. It's totally possible.
Very, 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 very feasible for them not to make it.
Sure. I mean, we've seen fourth-round picks not make it before. Duran Grant, Anthony Chickalo, those guys initially didn't make the 53, and then I think they came back, and Chick obviously stuck. Grant really didn't, but there's no guarantees. I think Benny Snell is the last lock on that list, and even him might be like 98.9% chance of making it. And then, the rest all have to definitely earn it.
All right, what you got about for us on pressure?
Yeah, just go through it quickly here. We're going to skip. We were going to talk about the cornerback class. We'll talk about that next episode. We'll lump the secondary in together because I know we're running a little bit long. But with the pressures, not a surprise, but just have some numbers up on Steelers Depot in an article talking about how opposing quarterbacks, what their numbers are whenever they're being pressured by the Steelers defense and without pressure. And it's a pretty stark contrast based on our charting last year when Steelers defense had quarterbacks under pressure. The completion percentage was under 50%. The yards per attempt were under 5 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Now you compare that to when quarterbacks are functioning without pressure. That completion percentage goes from under 50% to 66%. Yards per attempt goes up to 7.4. They threw 22 touchdowns versus just 4 interceptions. So a huge difference. Again, I think it works with the inherent thought that pressure affects quarterbacks and it's a win for the defense, but it's nice to put the numbers to it and really show how effective pressure is. And I think the pressure can continue to be strong in 2019 and even stronger. It's ideal you bring in some better talent in the secondary. It's going to help give your pass rush more time to get home. So I think it's just nice to be able to chart how much pressure is helpful to this defense.
Yeah, pressure. We talk all the time. Sacks are nice, but pressure. Give me guys that can force that quarterback to pull that football down, and reset. And even if you don't get get the sack there, some good things can usually happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Dave, let's get to some reader emails now to close out the show.
All right, Jim Bendis writes in, Ben and Antonio. 2 quick questions. One thing I can figure out, and I hope you can help me, is why is Ben always ranked so low in the annual polls and during this season? I think 44 most valuable NFL player in the last poll, and is not often listed in the top 5 quarterbacks, but he still is considered a first-round Hall of Famer. Can you explain the paradox beyond the 3 Super Bowl appearances? Also, is there a stat that shows how many times that Antonio Brown made an impossible clutch catch that led to a win directly or indirectly, e.g. the immaculate extension? I mean, that you want to talk about plays in clutch situations there. That that immaculate extension was certainly one of them. Or the catch on the sidelines late in the season that somehow he got dragged his toe to everyone's disbelief. To me, these clutch plays will be tough to replace, where we will miss him the most. Do you not agree? I think Alex said as much, right, Alex? I mean, it's those, it's those 3rd and 10 late in ball game situations. Mm-hmm. Those kind of plays you will indeed miss from Antonio Brown, I think. So, is there a stat that correlates to that? What would you say to that?
I would say it's probably more research than I'm willing to put in a week before camp. Apologies. And then to the other question about why Ben gets so little respect, I don't know. National media just I think has always viewed him as just backyard Ben and not a true conventional quarterback, although we know Steeler fans know that he's evolved into something that resembles that a lot more than what he used to be. But I think they're always just looking at the more refined quarterbacks and holding them in higher esteem.
I don't know. Brett Favre was a gunslinger, and he was always considered.
Yeah, I mean, I just think in the modern era, I mean, there's always going to be exceptions to it, but I'm sure Favre had his fair share. If Twitter existed in Favre's prime, I think you would hear some different comments.
I mean, look, Brady's always going to be up there, but who are the other ones that, I mean, Jim has a point. I mean, any conversation, should include Ben in the top 5.
Sure, yeah, no, I agree with Jim. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying the NFL because you're comparing Ben to Peyton Manning when he was around, and Tom Brady and Drew Brees and all these conventional quarterbacks. In Favre's era, I think when the game wasn't as crisp and clean, I don't know, it wasn't that long ago, but in Favre's era, you had like Elway, so you kind of had similar quarterbacks, and I think that made Favre more attractive because he made it work better, and you didn't have the Peyton Manning to compare it to, or Tom Brady to compare it to in that moment.
All right, Michael Pepitone writes in, while all the buzz surrounds the Browns and the Steelers in the AFC North, have we forgotten about the Bengals too soon? Dalton 120-time starter paired with Joe Mixon, perhaps the best running back in the AFC North, and a returning A.J. Green. Underrated Tyler Boyd is formidable set of players. While the offensive line is woeful, this group can still put up points. They also have a solid defense. Is a bounce back season in store for the Bengals after a decent start and a flare out last season. Would love to hear your thoughts. Look, that offensive line can't be ignored, man. I mean, that it's in shambles right now. In my opinion, they're going to have troubles keeping, and I think it's going to affect the running game. I think it's a little bit too soon to crown Joe Mixon, as high as what they're trying to say. I like Tyler Boyd, I like A.J. Green, but Green has a problem of staying healthy, and Boyd, when Green has gone down, can he continue to be that guy? Their defense overall as a whole, who's going to play linebacker for them? They should be able to get out after the quarterback in some instances. Their secondary is okay, but first-year head coach, and I think all these other things that go along, the division they play in and the schedule that they play in, I will be, Zach should get coach of the year if this team goes 500.
Yeah, I just think the line's the big issue. I mean, that's going to be the big sticking point is that line's a mess, and you don't have good trench play. It's going to be tough to win when AFC North has good trench play with Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
I'll put it to you this way. The Steelers should be embarrassed if they lose either one of the 2 games to the Bengals and really any team in the AFC North. And rest assured, the Bengals are not going to go 0-6 in the division. At least I don't think they are. The team that loses to the Browns, there ought to be some sort of, there ought to be some sort of trophy that like the fantasy loser trophy, along those lines. If you lose to the Bengals this year,
you get a dunce cap. You got to wear a dunce cap next game.
Don't be surprised if the Browns are the team that drops at least one game to the Bengals.
You are lower on the Browns than I am. I think you're sleeping on Cleveland a little bit, my friend.
All right, we'll see. Thomas John Lloyd Kastner writes, boy, that's a heck of a name, Thomas, if that's your name. Hey, Dave and Alex, I'm a big fan of the show, even a bigger fan of you sharing the foolish fan response on the Twitter machine. How likely is it that the Steelers keep Cameron Kelly on the 53? I went to every San Diego Fleet game, and since Cam switched back to defense, he really seemed to stand out. He has position versatility in that area where the Steelers could use more depth. Assuming he shows he can also contribute on special teams, then what other players are most likely to win over him? Jordan Dangerfield is the only one that comes to mind. Could he be on the practice squad? I think, yeah, there's a possibility of that. Sports journalism question. I've read many articles that talk a lot about the Steelers losing Brown and Bell in 2019. That strikes me as dishonest because Bell played 0 snaps in 2018. The team practiced and prepared for 16 regular season games without Bell. Wouldn't it be more accurate to say the Steelers lost Bell in 2018? Yeah, it would be. I suspect that journalists, including Bell in the loss category because they want to strengthen their point on having concern for the offense in 2019. I agree 100% with you, Thomas. They lump that in because it sounds better. It sounds more magnified to say this team lost Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, but that just comes across as just disingenuous, he says. What are your thoughts? I'm with you. This team proved, look, they're going to miss Bell ability to make plays at the second level in the passing game. Everything else they've shown they can kind of replace them on there. Give us your thoughts on Cameron Kelly, Alex.
Yeah, he can make it. I know he got some second-team reps or some first-team reps whenever Sean Davis missed. If he can make some plays, he's got the receiver background. He made plays at San Diego State, and as you said, with the Fleet in the AAF, it's possible. There's a spot for some guy to rise up at safety where the depth is thin, but he'll have to come in camp and carry over what he did in the spring.
Nick Scaloli writes in, hey guys, my father recently informed me that Franco Harris retired with the Seattle Seahawks. Boy, Nick, as a younger Steelers fan, it certainly was hard to see Franco Harris in a Seattle Seahawks uniform. That didn't go well for him, by the way. But it still was tough to see Franco in his career with the Seahawks. He claims he was shocked. He's a younger Steelers fan and evidently didn't know that. I do understand the NFL is a business, so with that and the departures of 26 and 84 got me curious. Who are some of the best Steelers who didn't retire in the black and gold? Rod Woodson comes to name.
That's a good one.
Comes Greg Lloyd, I think is another one that comes to mind.
Mike Webster in Kansas City for a year.
Mike Webster with the Chiefs. Cornell Lake, right?
Where'd Lake go? Oakland, Baltimore?
What at Jacksonville?
The Jacksonville? That probably sounds better than what I said. Joey Porter was in Miami for a time. Kevin Green bounced around a lot. He didn't start in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Kevin Green obviously didn't start there. Let's see. Cornell Lake played from 89 to 98, and then he went to Jacksonville for one season, and the Ravens for another season there. That was obviously tough to see. Woodson was tough to see. Who else, man?
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Defensive line.
I think we hit the big ones. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. No one.
Faneca.
Jets. That's a good one.
Jets and the Cardinals. Jets and the Cardinals there.
Yep.
Who else? Offensive line. Oh wow, drawing any running backs or skill. Oh well, what Thigpen, right? I mean, went.
Did he?
Didn't he go on to the Titans?
I know you're looking that up. I don't remember. So that sound kind of right.
I'm trying to remember here.
Was he part of them? Nah, that timeline wouldn't have worked.
Oh no, he started 1 year with the Chargers, but I mean his claim to fame was the Steelers from 92 to 97. Sure. Then he finished it out with the Oilers and the Titans from 1998 to 2000. Who was another one here? I'm drawing a blank on. Louis Lips. One year with the Saints to close out his career. I knew that was another one there. Any tight ends? What Eric Green? Who did he end his career with? Was it Baltimore?
It was someone else. I don't know who exactly it was. I'll look that up.
He went. He obviously only played, I think, 5 seasons in Pittsburgh. He went to Miami, then the Ravens for several years, and then the New York Jets around his career out there. So, yeah, there's been quite a few of them. And you're right. Football is a business, and sometimes we lose lose sight of that aspect of it there.
Good question. All right, let's do one more because I had to get to the post office.
You had to get to the post office here. Andrew writes in, hey, Dave and Alex, 2 questions, but only one is Steelers related. Word on the street is that Sua Cravens is on his last legs in Denver. Any reason the Steelers should be interested? I would give you a quick no there. Could wait to see if he's released or trade for him. Would you guys be willing to trade, if anything? Does he fit anywhere? I'm not interested. Second question. My girlfriend's family and I are heading out to Vegas at the very beginning of August. What are some of the miss things out there. We are driving to the Grand Canyon one day, but are looking for other things to do as well. Make sure you go down to Fremont Street, Andrew. It's in the older portion of Vegas, especially at nighttime. Seeing Fremont Street and that lighted overview at night. Obviously, on the Strip, the Bellagio fountains, the Treasure Bay kind of show that they do out front of the casino at night are must-sees. Try to go top of maybe the Rio, have you a cocktail at night, or the Stratosphere at night. See the city lit up while you're drinking an adult beverage, something along those lines. South Point, very underrated breakfast first thing in the morning between 12 and 6. Steak and eggs for $4.95. You will not be disappointed there. What's your thoughts on Su'a Cravens, Alex?
Yeah, I'm good. He was interesting coming out of USC. If he would have fit, it'd be like a dimebacker role, but he had concussions. Didn't he retire?
Yeah, he tried
back?
to retire. I don't. Guys that are kind of,
I'm good.
I'm good there as well, too. Thank you, Andrew, for the question. All right, Alex, you and I will get back after it again on Tuesday. Folks, thanks for all the great questions. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button, upright navigational bar. We also have year subscriptions to the site for ad-free versions for a whole $25. That's cheap if you want to do that. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.